Okay, in one previous clip, I talked about the possibility that Will James might have come first to Willow Bunch in Saskatchewan and gradually moved west, possibly using a French connection and possibly not. There is very little that we know about that period of his life. We have very small indications. We have the pictures of this young woman called Dolorina. The drawings about Dolorina were probably done between 1908 and 1909, so we might be able to find out who was this Dolorina. Was Dolorina a cute name for Dolores or for Dora or whatever? We have to find out, but there is a chance that we might be able to identify this Dolorina even though we don't have her family name. The other thing that we have is a postcard sent to his family in 1909. Dear parents, don't worry if I am 1 or 2 weeks without writing, and even a month, since I'm about to find a job for 1 or 2 months, because the best time for the homestead is May, and I will go to get one. I expect to be ready to receive you in the middle of June. From your son Ernest, and he adds, you will receive a bit of money from me soon. Well, interesting points is, of course, like most of the sons in those days, he would send money home, so this is interesting to read. The fact that he wants to take a homestead in 1909, he wasn't the right age, so this means he would have had to lie for the homestead, but it's not unthinkable. I think a lot of the people would do that in those days to get the land. But also he's talking about receiving the mother or receiving the parents.
Elle devait avoir vu Will James avant de venir ici.
Oui, parce qu'elle décrivait comme la manière qu'il vivait. Elle dit, ça n'a pas de bon sens de vivre comme ça. Elle dit, elle ne voulait pas qu'il vive de même. Elle dit, je ne pourrais pas vivre, savoir qu'il vit comme ça. Parfois qu'il s'en revienne dans l'Est.
So we know for a fact that Will James' mother went to visit him. Now, was it, as it said, was it in 1909 or was it in 1911?
Il restait déjà dans, on appelle ça des curies, mais c'était leur maison dans ce temps-là.
Ah ouais.
Puis leur maison était pas mal neuve, puis on bâtit ça en 1911.
We might be able to find eventually if it was in 1909 or 1911. But one thing is sure is the mother, Will James' mother, came to visit him and she was desperate because of the conditions in which he was living. So this is an interesting point. We then learned from Auguste, Will James' younger brother, that he went back to Montreal in the spring of 1910. But according to this picture, it would appear that he was missing at least 2 good things to be totally happy there and definitely had to head back west. The other thing that we know about the time is there was the rumor for a very long time that Will James had a cabin somewhere southeast of Val-Marie. I didn't really buy that theory of the cabin there. I was very skeptical, but fortunately I met Thelma Poirier, the poet, who is also a very good historian. And I was talking with her about this, telling her I was skeptical. And I said, well, if he had a homestead, I would go and find it in Regina in the archives. So he either had one or he didn't. So she turned to me and she said, well, I've got the papers. I found it. He had the homestead. So I turned and here are the papers. So Will James registered a homestead the 23rd of June, 1911. So we know the section exactly where it was. Where's the Larson's Ranch? On the square, on section 25. And it's precisely the western part. Southwest was the homestead and northwest was preemption.
I don't have the doubt that he was here. I think that homestead application indicates that he was.
You mean Will James?
Yes. The little story book, I think it's called The Young Cowboy. I was told that Will James came here to give a copy of that book to Walt Larson in 1935. He came back to look at this place.
From Walt Larson's grandson, Bob Larson, she heard from him that Will James didn't have a cabin, but he had the dugout. For the family, for the Larson's family, it was very clear that Will James always had a dugout. They knew precisely where it was. It was 240 yards south of their ranch. So they knew very well where it was, and until 1938 or something, the dugout apparently was there. So we went to see that. It was important for us to see the dugout.
But this is still the area. I don't know which part of it for sure or anything. But this didn't seem to be this large when I was here before.
I went with Thelma, but of course Thelma had been there 15 years earlier, so she wasn't quite sure where the place was. The next day I went, I naively thought I had found the place. I was all excited and everything, but I was wrong. But what was important is that we triggered the search, and the week after we went there with the great-grandson of Walt Larson. And then he literally put his foot in what we think was the real dugout from Will James. So we still have to find out precisely. The ball is now in the camp of Parks Canada, and we really hope that they start to do some archaeological research to find it. I think it's important historically and for all the fans of Will James.
This is the only mark that he personally left on this landscape, at least to my knowledge.